Hello Year 7, this is Miss Scott. I'm going to be going through your Population and Development Geography project and picking out key pieces of information and tasks. So if you want to have your booklet next to you as you watch and listen to this video, it will help you follow along. So if we start with section 1, and this was to look at global population, so people around the world. You've got a lot of key terms there, but once you know the definition for each one, and the more you use it, the more you'll become familiar with it, and it will definitely help your written and your spoken answers in terms of discussing these topics. So your birth rate is the number of births a year per 1,000 people. So the higher the number, the more births, the lower the number, the fewer births there are. Same with the death rate. It's just how many people have died per 1,000 people. So it might be, for example, 3 out of 1,000, or in a case where there's lots of deaths, 100 out of 1,000. Natural increase means the difference between the number of births and deaths. Infant mortality is the number of babies that die under the age of 1 per 1,000 births. So again, if that number is higher, it means that more babies have died. Quality of life, when we talk about the quality of life, what we mean is the standard of health, comfort and happiness experienced by an individual or a group. So it could be how safe you feel or how well you are. Your standard of living, what we mean by this is the level of wealth, comfort and material goods available to a person. So how much money you have, what your income is, maybe how many things you have in your home, how expensive they are. Population is the number of people living somewhere. If we refer to an area as densely populated, we mean that there are lots of people living in that area. And sparsely populated is the opposite. It means an area where only a few people live, such as in a rural area, so the countryside would be more sparsely populated. Or if you think of Antarctica. Development, and you'll see this come up a lot, this word, is a positive change that makes things better. So if a country is developing or it has developed, it means that the standards of living and the quality of life have or are improving. So this map of the world you've got here, the question is asking you to describe the distribution of the most densely populated areas. Describe the distribution means say how things are spread out. Where are things happening? So in this case, we're looking at most densely populated, and if you come down to your key at the bottom, you can see that the most densely populated areas are dark red. So we're looking for the areas and the countries, the sections, of the continents that are dark red. We need to refer to our continents, so make sure, regardless of what topic you're on, you know your 7 continents, because that will really help you describing in detail where things are. So I can see straight away we've got some densely populated areas in the southeast of Asia, particularly the east of China, the north of India, and hopefully what you can hear that I'm doing is being specific about country and or continent and which particular part of that using compass directions. You could say along the southern coast of India is most densely populated. You can also refer to the fact that it's a lick or a hick. So we can see, if you look at England, that's dark red, therefore England is a densely populated area, and this is a hick. So there's just some little pointers for you when you're describing from a map. Now here we're looking at the quality of life and the standard of living. So you needed to draw either a baby shape to represent an increase in birth rate, or a coffin shape to for an increase in the death rate. So if we have dirty water in an area, it's going to increase our death rate because it makes you poorly, so people are more likely to die. We're very lucky in England that we don't have that problem, but unfortunately a lot of countries do, and it results in more deaths, so a higher death rate. Young age of marriage would tend to indicate that that would give us an increase in birth rate, because people are getting married, they're starting their families. Reliable food supply, if everybody's got enough food, everybody's healthy, they can continue and live on to have a family. However, lots of disease, again, unfortunately means people are going to die, so it's going to increase that death rate. And the same with war. Unfortunately, it does come with a lot of deaths, so the death rate will increase. If you don't have access to contraception, it's going to increase the birth rate. And a lack of food, again, if you haven't got enough, it's going to lead to famine, starvation, and unfortunately, therefore, deaths. So section 3, 7.7 billion and counting. That was a documentary by Chris Packham. Really, really good. Hope you managed to get hold of that. Now, there are a couple of questions I'm going to pick out from this particular section, and that is, what is a megacity? This term will come up, so make sure you know what a megacity is. And it's an urban area with a population of 10 million people or more. An urban area meaning a town or a city. And what are the benefits of increased urban living, so more people living in an urban area? In this particular example with Sao Paulo, it was the fact that it's an economic and a cultural centre. So if you go to London, as a different example, it's where a lot of the financial companies are set up, and there's a lot of different cultures because there's so many people living in that particular area. However, with an increase of people living all together in those urban areas, it means that we have a pressure on resources because people are consuming. There are more people consuming, such as water and food and energy. You get a lot more traffic congestion, so it will take you longer to get to places, which if you did manage to see the video, you'll see he mentions a lot of the wealthier people tend to fly around in helicopters as opposed to driving in their cars. The biggest problem he mentioned was the fact that it leads to a water shortage. With so many people depending on needing water, there's only so much water, and therefore it can cause a lot of problems there. Section 4 is to do with our HICs and our LICs. So our high income countries, i.e. our rich countries, or our low income countries, our poor countries. You can see here I've already separated the pieces of information into the two separate categories. So if you want to pause at this point and check your answers against these, but the main things is you can see in a high income country where they are more developed, they have more money. Therefore, they can afford more schools and hospitals. People are healthier because they've got the healthcare. Whereas in a low-income country, it's the opposite. They don't have the money to afford the schools. People aren't as well educated. Therefore, they don't earn as much money. They either don't have access to contraception or they don't know about contraception. And therefore, they have a higher birth rate and so on. So if you want to pause at this point, feel free. Section 5 is where we started to look at gross domestic product, so the amount of money that a country has. Again, on this particular exercise, you were asked to look at the map and pick out, for example, question 1, which continent has the lowest GDP per person? Now, remember, whenever you've got a map, always look for the key because those colours will tell you where the different bits of information are. So the dark purple is over 20,000 GDP per person. The lightest purple is under 5,000. So you know, if you look at question 3 where it says name 5 countries with GDP per person over 20,000, look at your key. We can see we're looking for the dark purple. Look at the dark purple. What country is that? So I can see straight away we've got Australia, we've got America, we've got Canada, we've got England, and that's just 4 straight away. And again, with question 5, name 5 countries with GDP per person under 5,000. You have a look on your key, you can see that's the lightest purple. Straight away I'm drawn to the continent of Africa, and I can see there's plenty of different countries to choose from there. Kenya, Nigeria, Chad, Madagascar, and there's just a few examples. How a GDP could be improved, how can they make more money? Well, they can encourage businesses to move in there and make products. They can encourage more trade with other countries. It's just a way of what can they do in that country to make more money. Can they make more products within that country that they can then sell? Question 6, your population demographics. You've got 2 population pyramids here, both slightly different shapes, one for Singapore, one for India. And you are asked to describe the pyramids for both of those countries and think about things such as the birth rate and the death rate and so on. So your birth rate, obviously you're going to be looking at the bottom of the pyramid where the age group is 0 to 4. And what I will say to make sure you check when you're looking at population pyramids is the units that it's measured in. So if you look at the Singapore, along the bottom it says population in thousands, whereas India is population in millions. So I don't want you to get mixed up and think, oh, Singapore's got more. It's actually India has got the bigger population. So you can also, when you're describing, you can make sure you look at the numbers to give examples. So for example, I can see that the male births in India are approximately 63 million. Between 0 and 4-year-olds, that would be. But either way, we can see that the higher birth rate is in India. And we can see that there are slightly more older people in Singapore. If you have any questions about any of these, or you're still not too sure, please make sure you just email your teacher. It's not a problem. Section 7 is migration. So migration means to move in basic terms. Now when we talk about migration, we think about what's causing people to move. Why are they moving from where they've possibly grown up, and why they're going somewhere else? And we refer to that as a push factor or a pull factor. A push factor is usually something negative that causes people to want to leave, and a pull factor is usually something positive that's pulling them in, it's attracting them. Now there's lots and lots of different push and pull factors. I've just got a couple of examples on here to show you. So push factor, high unemployment, hardly any jobs, therefore it's going to be hard for you to make some money for you and or your family. If there's a war going on, and if there's low wages. Whereas something that's likely to attract you to an area is if there's more jobs, so you've got a better chance of getting a job and therefore getting money. War, the opposite to war, sorry, so political stability, so you're going to be a lot safer there. And if there's better paid jobs. So it's basically the opposite to the push factors. Now your other two sections, section 8 and section 9, again, different areas that have experienced migration, whether it's from Mexico to the USA, or whether it's people into or out of the UK. In either case, you have push and pull factors. So for example, a reason why people might leave the UK to go to other countries such as Spain, I know that was your example, it could be because they don't like the weather here. So unreliable weather in the UK would be the push factor. The pull factor for Spain would be better, more reliable weather. So overall, just to conclude your population and development project, what you need to make sure that you are familiar with, and again just go back through your booklet, go back through these slides if you're still not 100% sure, are all those key terms. So migration, birth rate, death rate, population, sparsely, densely. What do they mean? What context can you use them in? It's really going to improve your writing and your spoken answers if you include those key terms. Push and pull factors. What are the negative reasons that will push people out of an area, and what are those positive, attractive reasons that will pull people in? And be careful when you've got to describe information from a different source, whether it's a population pyramid, whether it's a graph, whether it's a chart. Read it carefully, look at the units, have a look at the key, what information is on there. Know your continents, know your compass direction, so which part of that continent, because it's not the whole of Asia, it's a specific part of Asia, or it's not the whole of North America, it's a specific part, so what is that specific part that is being shown? I hope that's helped, but as I mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions at all, please just email in to one of your teachers. Thanks for listening.